Right, yeah, the year 2000, my top 10 albums of the year 2000. What was I doing in 2000? Well, year 2000 would have been my last year of school, going into 2001. So yeah, sort of being 15, 16 at the time, sort of earning my own money at that time. I had myself a paper round, and I had a weekend job as well. And I was well sort of established in my music collection of collecting CDs. Had quite a nice little collection by then. So yeah, and of course, downloading of MP3s was in full swing at that time. Whether that was, I guess, dial up probably. So yeah, had quite a bit of music piling up, in the collection. A lot of CDs of the 90s and so forth. So yeah, my top 10 of the 2000s. I have to start off with a few honourable mentions. This Papa Roach Infests. When I heard Last Resort, I thought that was an outstanding rock tune. Introduced to me by my brother's mate who came round and brought this album over, and I thought that was really, really cool. The Gorillaz debut album, Clint Eastwood on here, as well as 2000, and yeah, it's a good album, good solid album. This was a very popular album, Alien Ant Farm, and yeah, Smooth Criminal on here was really quite a belter, but I wasn't really that into it, it was okay. I wasn't really too big on the album, but a lot of people were, so I thought I'd mention it. This was an album I liked, although it wasn't a particularly good album. It's quite average, really, for them. Manson, Little Kicks. Their previous albums, I think, were better, but I fell in love with the track I Can Only Disappoint You, and I went out and brought a single before I brought this album. And I've always enjoyed this album, though it's not particularly all that great considering. But yeah, it's just a one I've just liked. So we've got the Wallflowers, Breach, and Top Loaders, Enka's Big Monka. Dancing in the Moonlight was a huge hit on here. Achilles Heel, and I think wasn't Higher State a hit of theirs as well? Pretty good album. Not great, but good enough. I did enjoy it. I gave it a lot of time back in the day, which was like 23 years ago. God, 23 years ago. Can't believe it. Yeah, I can remember buying this album in. I'm pretty sure it was in HMV in Worthing. When I were with a mate from schoolmate, and his dad took us there and took us back in the car, and I ended up buying about 3 or 4 albums, I think, and that was one of them. Anyway, my top 10 started off with 10. Doves, Lost Souls. So yeah, number 10. Number 9, the Dandy Warhols, 13 Tales of Urban Bohemia. When I heard Bohemia Like You, I believe it was on an advert, on a Vodafone advert on the TV, and I thought that's awesome. That's a great song. And it went out and got the album. Well, my brother got the album, and I got it a bit later on. My brother brought all the albums, basically. He had everything, and it saved me buying them, quite honestly, because I would get to listen to them, because we used to share a computer growing up. So, and that was in my bedroom, the computer. So all music was just played was usually through my computer or our computer, and it was ripped to the hard drive and stuff. So I was always hearing the albums, and that's that saved a lot of money. When you can share music like that. But yeah, as I got older, I snapped up all these albums which I didn't have, which my brother had. So a lot of these were later charity shops, which I picked up for next to nothing, and this was one of them. But yeah, it was a very good album. Always enjoyed this one. Number 8, Green Day, Warning. Wow, there's a few brilliant songs on here. Warning being one of them. Waiting and Minority. Yeah, I love Minority particularly. This is a good album, Green Day. So that's Warning. Number 7. This was a huge album in school. This was immensely popular. This was the first real kind of heavy rock album I heard, or got into at the time, with elements of rap as well, and the coarse language. It was quite something back in the time for me, being that I was like a tender age of like 15, 16. Hot Dog, My Generation, Phil Nelson, My Way, Rolling. I think I recorded this album to cassette and used to bring it into school and was always listening to it. And my mate, one of my mates at school I used to knock around with, I was always playing it for him. Used to share headphones in the classroom listening to it. Good solid album. Funny enough though, I don't seem to play it much these days. It was good in its time for a few years, whatever it was, but it hasn't seemed to last the test of time. It's one of those albums I just kind of ignore now, I don't know why. Moving on. My brother turned me on to the band, the Barenaked Ladies, the Canadian band, the Barenaked Ladies. And of course they had quite a commercial success regarding the American Pie movie. I think one of their songs was featured on there. But my brother was buying the singles when they were coming out. I don't know how he knew about them. I know he had a mate who had an older sister, who used to work in Virgin, like music shop in the town, and she would tell her brother, which would tell my brother about like the latest sort of releases, stuff to look out for, stuff to pick up. And he would go out and he would pick up the albums and singles. And he got into the Barenaked Ladies, and in the year 2000 they released the album Maroon, which I think is an excellent album. It's an enjoyable album, front to back. I can't tell you the hits off here, because this is Canadian, and I'm not sure if any of these songs on here made the UK chart. Their previous album, they would have done, but I'm not sure about this one. I think Pinch Me might have been a hit. I love the song Baby Seat on here. That's a good song, Baby Seat. It's, solid album. Highly enjoyable even now. So, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Fifth spot. This was an album I seeked out. Wheatus, self-titled. When I heard the song Teenage Dirtbag, I was like, wow, that is an absolute belter. And I went out to find the album, which I did, and wasn't disappointed. This is an excellent punk rock album. Biggest hit, of course, is Teenage Dirtbag, but Truffles, Sunshine, Little Respect, I think was a hit cover. Hump and Dump 'Em, Leroy, Hey Mr. Brown, Love is a Mutt from Hell, Punk Ass Bitch, and Wannabe Gangster, all on here. Makes this a solid punk rock album. That's why it's in my 5th spot. Unfortunately, I don't think it really got the praise it should have done for some reason. Number 4. I think every time there's an Oasis album, it always makes my top 10. Just giving you a heads up now. And of course, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants is no exception. It includes Go Let It Out, Who Feels Love, and Sunday Morning Call. What about Fucking in the Bushes? Why don't they put that on the front? Fucking in the Bushes. Featured in the Snatch movie, didn't it? Not their best album. This was slightly reformed Oasis, I believe. I'm not quite sure what band members came and went, but yeah, their deep cuts are good. They're good. They're not as good as their previous albums, and some songs just seem a little bit long. Can get a little bit boring after a while for some reason. But still, without criticising it too much, it's a good, solid album by Oasis. Maybe it is a little bit underestimated, a little bit sort of overlooked, but a good entry nonetheless. Number three, third spot. This will be U2, All That You Can't Leave Behind. This was absolutely a monster of an album when it came out. This went platinum within no time. Yeah, great songs featuring A Beautiful Day, Stuck in a Moment You Can't Get Out Of, and Elevation, plus The Ground Beneath Her Feet. A good album. This album was everywhere. It was absolutely everywhere. I can remember seeing it in people's cars, on the dashes, and it just seemed to be everywhere. Everyone had this album. So yeah, U2, All That You Can't Leave Behind. Second spot, Coldplay, Parachutes. I went out and bought a CD at the time. I went into H&V, like I said, in Worthing, and I bought 3 or 4 albums. One of them being the Beatles' #1 album. Don't forget, this came out in 2000. So it's yeah, I had to get that. Top Loader, one of them I showed earlier. And of course, this is the actual CD. Coldplay, Parachutes. Yeah, it's a great album. After having it for so long now, I would say Sparks is probably now my favourite song on here. I just love that song. But it's a great album, highly enjoyable, and I do think it may be slightly better than Rush of Blood to the Head release after this one. Might be just on the whole a better album, but yeah. Anyway, this one, and of course I have it on vinyl as well. But the number one. If I was to have done this list in the past, this probably list would be quite different. I'm not sure if this list, if this number one would be number one. I don't know. Opinions change, don't they? This is all subjective. And it can change by the week sometimes, can't they? But this is number one, and I think it should be number one. This album was absolutely killer. It was killer. Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory. At the time, I was more of a Limp Bizkit fan, because I think for me that was the first of the 2 albums I could sort of listen to first. I didn't get this until a lot later on, I think, in the year. But yeah, it's an absolute great album. Contemporary classic in the world of modern rock and alternative music, like it states on the front. Paper Cuts, One Step Closer, With You, Points of Authority, Crawling, Runaway, By Myself, In the End, A Place for My Head, Forgotten, Cure for the Itch, Pushing Me Away. It rocks. It's heavy. It's heavy. Its rap elements to the album are absolutely awesome as well. This is what makes this album work. Is not only its heavy kind of rock sound, but the rapping as well. It just fits so well. The way they put this album together is absolutely brilliant. Hence why it is my number one. So there you go. There's so yeah, that is my top 10 of the year 2000. Plus those other honourable mentions as well. So yeah, there's a lot there. It was a good year for music, and like any decade really, they kind of go up and down like the strengths of albums, you know. Although the number one is usually very very strong, um, like the strength of the top 10 necessarily might kind of weaken a little bit, you know, as like the years go on. Some years seem to be better than others, you know, like any decade really. But I found towards like the middle of the decade, it was his best kind of period. So yeah, I'll be doing continue with this series because it is more or less my era, being that I'm a millennial. Is that right? Anyway, yeah. So yeah, we looking to do 2001 next time. So yeah, till then, everyone. Bye for now.